You have no gifts. I will wipe away every shadow that fills my children's eyes with fear. Do you understand?
No one knew the true identity of the man dressed as Santa Claus walking through Detroit's snowy streets. Until 8-year-old Mateo Gutierrez's scream pierced the silent night and changed everything. But before I tell you about that terrifying night, I must explain how things got to this point. Because sometimes even the most innocent celebrations can hide dark secrets. December 24th, 2023, Detroit, Michigan. Snow blanketed the city like a blanket. The windows of the houses on Woodward Avenue were decorated with colorful lights. Christmas songs played everywhere, and children waited excitedly for tomorrow. But this story is not a happy Christmas fairy tale. It is a true story about how a mother's instincts prevented a tragedy. Esperanza Gutierrez, 42, was a hardworking nurse who had immigrated to America from Mexico. She and her husband Miguel lived in a modest home in Detroit's southwest region in the Mexican town neighborhood, where mostly Latin Americans resided. They had 3 children, 14-year-old Sofia, 11-year-old Carlos, and 8-year-old Mateo. Esperanza worked the night shift at Henry Ford Hospital. She had to go to work that evening, but she felt strangely uneasy. Maybe it was because of the snowstorm, maybe it was fatigue. But no, this was something different. That inexplicable feeling called maternal instinct. "Miguel, should I skip work tonight?" she asked her husband as they sat drinking coffee at the kitchen table. Miguel was a reliable 45-year-old man who worked as a foreman at the Ford factory. "Mi amor, why?" "They need you at the hospital. Besides, you know the kids are safe with me." Esperanza shook her head, but the uneasiness inside her wouldn't go away. Just then, the doorbell rang. When Miguel opened the door, there stood a man dressed as Santa Claus. He had a huge sack in his hand and a warm smile on his face. "Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. I'm the volunteer Santa Claus for the neighborhood. I'm handing out presents to the kids." The man was tall and burly. His blue eyes peered out from behind a white beard. His accent suggested he was Canadian. He introduced himself as Beaumont Tremblay. "I'm from the church in the neighborhood," the man said. "Father Martinez from St. Anne's Church sent me. We're handing out surprise gifts to all the children." Miguel hesitated. He didn't know the man, but he knew St. Anne's Church. It was a trustworthy place. Besides, the man seemed so sincere. "Kids, look who's here," Miguel called out. Mateo, Carlos, and Sofia came running. Mateo's eyes lit up. "Santa Claus. The real Santa Claus." Beaumont was invited inside. They went into the living room. The man began pulling gift packages out of his sack. Each one was carefully wrapped, with the children's names written on them. "How do you know my children's names?" Esperanza asked suspiciously. "Oh, Father Martinez gave me the list." "It has the names of all the children in the neighborhood," said Beaumont. His smile never fading. Esperanza's American neighbor, 68-year-old retired police officer Keturah Williams, had been shoveling snow in his yard at that very moment and saw inside through the window. There was a Santa Claus he didn't recognize in the Gutierrez family's house. With 30 years of police experience, Deshawn sensed something was wrong. Meanwhile, Beaumont was giving the children their gifts. "But you must open these tomorrow morning, okay? That's the Christmas tradition." Little Mateo couldn't resist. "But Santa Claus, can I open just one?" No, you must be patient, my little friend. But I'll tell you what, I have a special gift for you. If you come outside with me, under the snowfall, I'll give it to you." "My sleds are right around the corner." Esperanza's heart tightened. "No, Mateo can't go outside. It's too cold. Oh, just for a minute. Right in front of the door," said Beaumont. His voice was still cheerful, but there was something different in his eyes now. Just then, Keturah Williams knocked on the door. "Hey, Miguel. Everything okay, neighbor?" Deshawn came in, his eyes on Beaumont. "Yes, Deshawn, this gentleman came from the church. He's handing out gifts to the kids." Deshawn looked at Beaumont. His old police instincts were sounding the alarm. "Which church did you say?" "St. Anne's. Father Martinez sent him." Interesting. Father Martinez went to Miami yesterday because his sister is sick. I'm on the church board, so I know." The tension in the room suddenly increased. Beaumont's expression changed. His smile disappeared. Esperanza reflexively stepped in front of her children. "Who are you? What do you want?" Beaumont stood up. His large frame seemed even bigger in the living room. I just wanted to cheer up the kids. May I see your ID?" said Deshawn, his voice now completely authoritative like a police officer's. Beaumont reached into his pocket. Everyone thought he was going to pull out his ID, but a spray can appeared in his hand. He quickly sprayed it in Deshawn's face. The old man coughed and backed away. Miguel tried to lunge at Beaumont, but the man pushed him down. "Children, run!" Esperanza shouted. Sofia and Carlos ran upstairs, but Mateo froze in fear. Beaumont lunged at the little boy. Just as he was about to grab him, Esperanza intervened. Using defense techniques she had learned in nursing school, she twisted the man's arm. "Mateo, run!" Mateo finally came to his senses and ran upstairs, crying. Beaumont pushed Esperanza and headed for the door. Deshawn had recovered and was calling 911 on his phone. "This is 4425 West Verner. Emergency! Suspect is fleeing." Beaumont bolted outside. He started running in his Santa Claus costume under the snowfall, but he didn't get far. Detroit police sirens could already be heard. Apparently other neighbors had noticed the situation and called the police. Beaumont was caught 2 blocks away. A search of his person revealed terrible things: chloroform, handcuffs, and a notebook. The notebook contained the children's names, addresses, and school hours. The Gutierrez children were also on the list. Beaumont's true identity was revealed at the police station. His name was not Beaumont Tremblay. His real name was Beauregard Thibodeau, and he was wanted in Canada for child abduction. He had entered the United States with a false identity. For the past 3 months, he had been wandering around different neighborhoods in Detroit as a volunteer, observing families and children. When Esperanza went to the police station to give her statement, she spoke with Detective Jamal Washington. The 55-year-old experienced African-American detective had been dealing with these types of cases for 25 years. "Mrs. Gutierrez, if it weren't for you and your neighbor, Mr. Williams' vigilance, tonight could have ended very differently." Thibodeau's plan was clear. He was going to take one of the children. But why? Why our Mateo? Esperanza was still trembling. According to the notes in Thibodeau's notebook, he had been tracking your work hours, Miguel's shifts, and the children's school schedules for months. He knew you would be at work tonight and that only Miguel would be home. The reason he targeted Mateo, I'm sorry to say this, but he chose the smallest and most vulnerable one. Esperanza was overcome with tears. Miguel tried to comfort her. Detective Washington continued. "But there's something that's been bothering me." Thibodeau didn't seem to be working alone. Judging by the messages on his phone, he was in contact with someone. "There are coded messages like package ready. So there are others?" Miguel's voice was anxious. "We're investigating. The FBI is involved. This has become an interstate case." When the Gutierrez family returned home that night, the children were still in shock. Mateo, in particular, was crying constantly and wouldn't leave his mother's side. "Mom, was Santa Claus bad?" he asked through his tears. Esperanza took her son in her arms. "No, mi amor, it wasn't the real Santa Claus. It was just a bad man in disguise. The real Santa Claus is kind-hearted and loves children. But how can we tell who is good and who is bad?" This question wasn't just that of an 8-year-old child. It was every parent's nightmare. How would they protect their children? Who could they trust? Neighbor Keturah Williams couldn't sleep that night. As a retired police officer, he had seen many such cases, but this time it was in his own neighborhood, in his neighbor's house. When his wife was alive, she always said, "Deshawn, you suspect everyone." Maybe she was right. But tonight his suspicion had saved a family. The next morning, Christmas morning, the neighborhood was completely different. There were police cars at every door. FBI agents were going door to door asking questions. Had anyone seen Beauregard Thibodeau before? Had they noticed any other suspicious activity? Mrs. Dorothy Henderson, 73, the oldest resident in the neighborhood, told the FBI agents something interesting. "Yes, I saw that man." But he wasn't alone. There was a minivan, and someone else was sitting inside. I wrote down the license plate number, just out of habit. When my husband was alive, he always said, "Dorothy, write everything down, it'll come in handy." The license plate number Mrs. Henderson gave was a crucial clue. The minivan had been rented in Windsor, Ontario. The renter's name, Jean-Baptiste Lafortune. But that was also a fake name. FBI Special Agent Maria Rodriguez began investigating the case in depth. The 38-year-old Puerto Rican agent specialized in child abduction cases. "This is an organized network," she told her team. "Thibodeau was just the collector. He would take the children and deliver them to others." The Detroit police and the FBI held a joint press conference. Chief Marcus Thompson, the 52-year-old African-American police chief, addressed the public. "Dear citizens of Detroit, last night's incident in our neighborhood serves as a warning to us all. Please be vigilant. Do not let strangers into your homes. Do not leave your children unattended. If you see anything suspicious, call 911 immediately. At the press conference, local reporter Isabella Martinez handed the microphone to Esperanza. Ms. Gutierrez, what would you like to say to other families? Esperanza's voice trembled at first, but then grew stronger. Listen to your maternal instincts. I didn't want to go to work last night. I had a bad feeling. I wish I had listened. But thankfully, our neighbor Deshawn was there. We must look out for each other. As a community, as a neighborhood, we must stand together. So what would you do? Would you trust a stranger who came to your house claiming to be from the church? And more importantly, who was behind Beauregard Thibodeau's network? Which other families were their targets? Do you have a feeling? Because I have to tell you, the truly shocking part of this story hasn't even begun yet. Do you think the FBI will find the second person in the minivan? And what was really inside those gift packages? December 26th, 2 days after Christmas. There was a flurry of activity at the FBI's Detroit office. Agent Maria Rodriguez and her team were examining the data retrieved from Beauregard Thibodeau's phone. Messages, calls, GPS locations. Each one was a piece of the puzzle. Look what I found, said young Agent Tyrone Jackson, pointing to the computer screen. The 28-year-old cybersecurity expert was an MIT graduate. Thibodeau has visited 47 different homes in Detroit over the past 3 months. All of them have children. Maria's face darkened. 47 families. My God, we need to warn them all. Just then the phone rang. It was Inspector Claude Boschman from the Windsor Police. Agent Rodriguez, we found the minivan you were looking for. It's in an abandoned warehouse inside. Inside are children's belongings. Toys, clothes, even some photos of children. Send us the photos immediately. When the photos arrived, the team was shocked. Among them were school photos of the Gutierrez children. But not only them. There were photos of 23 different children in total. Maria immediately coordinated with the Detroit police. We need to find these children's families. They're all potential targets. Detective Jamal Washington began examining the photos to identify the families. The first family he found was the Kowalskis, who lived in the Hamtramck area. They were Polish Americans. Stanislaw and Agnieszka Kowalski were horrified when they saw the photo of their 7-year-old daughter, Katarzyna. But we don't know this man. Agnieszka cried. How did he take our daughter's photo? Jamal explained. He probably took it when she was leaving school, playing in the park, or at the mall. He's been following you for months. Stanislaw's hands were shaking. So what happens now? Are we safe? Thibodeau was caught, but his friends are still out there. Please be very careful. The second family was the Haddads, Lebanese Americans living in Dearborn. Photos of Ahmad and Layla Haddad's 9-year-old twin sons, Omar and Ali, were also in the file. Ahmad was furious. How dare he take photos of my children? Mr. Haddad, please calm down, said Maria Rodriguez. I understand your anger, but right now we need to focus on the children's safety. Layla asked, Who are these men? What do they want with our children? Maria took a deep breath. We don't know for sure yet, but it could be an international child trafficking ring. Meanwhile, Beauregard Thibodeau was meeting with his lawyer in his prison cell. Public defender Jennifer O'Sullivan was a 34-year-old Irish-American idealist. Beauregard, if you cooperate, you could get a reduced sentence. Who were you working with? A strange smile appeared on Thibodeau's face. Ma'am, it's better for you not to know some things. What do you mean? What I mean is, Thibodeau's voice dropped to a whisper. This is much bigger than you think. And they find everyone. Jennifer shuddered. Who are they? Name names. Names? Thibodeau laughed. They don't have names. Only codes. I was Collector 7. The 7th collector in Detroit. The 7th? So there are 6 more? Thibodeau fell silent. He wouldn't say any more. At the FBI office, Maria Rodriguez was meeting with her team. According to Thibodeau, there are 6 more collectors in Detroit. We need to find them all. Tyrone Jackson showed some data from his computer. Thibodeau's messages mentioned some code names. Collector 3, Collector 11, Handler. He corresponded most with Handler. Handler is probably the person running the operation, said Maria. If we find him, we can take down the whole network. Meanwhile, another drama was unfolding at the Gutierrez family home. Little Mateo didn't want to go to school. He was constantly crying and having nightmares. Esperanza took her son to the school psychologist, Dr. Rachel Goldstein. The 45-year-old psychologist specialized in working with traumatized children. Mateo is currently experiencing PTSD, said Dr. Goldstein. Post-traumatic stress disorder. He needs treatment. How long will it take for him to recover? Every child is different, but with family support, therapy, and time, he will get through it. Esperanza wiped her tears. I wish I could have protected him. You did protect him. That man couldn't take Mateo. You are a hero, Mrs. Gutierrez. On the morning of December 27th, there was a special broadcast on Detroit local television. Channel 7 anchor Patricia Chang was interviewing Maria Rodriguez from the FBI live on air. Agent Rodriguez, how concerned should our community be? There's no need to panic, but be vigilant. Especially during the holiday season, be very cautious about strangers coming to your homes. So how should parents protect their children? First, talk to your children. Explain that they should not talk to strangers. Second, always know where your children are. Third, communicate with your neighbors. As a community, we must look out for each other. That night, in a different corner of Detroit, in the Brightmoor neighborhood, another collector was in action. The man who called himself Mall Santa worked as Santa Claus in shopping malls. Lynn Nguyen, a 65-year-old Vietnamese grandmother, had taken her 6-year-old grandson Tommy to see Santa Claus at the mall. Tommy, tell Santa Claus what you want, Lynn said, looking at the smiling Santa Claus. Santa Claus picked Tommy up in his arms. Well, little friend, have you been a good boy this year? Tommy nodded. Santa Claus stroked Tommy's hair and whispered something in his ear. Lynn didn't hear it, but Tommy's face changed. What did he say to you, Tommy? Asked his grandmother. He said he'd give me a special gift. But I have to go get it alone. Alarm bells rang inside Lynn. Having lived through the Vietnam War and come to America as a refugee, she had learned to smell danger. No, Tommy, you're not going anywhere alone. Mall Santa smiled. Oh, just to that gift stand over there, within sight. But Lynn wasn't convinced. She took Tommy from his lap and walked away. She went straight to mall security. I'm suspicious of that, Santa. He told my grandson to come alone. Security guard DeAndre Brown, 32, was a former soldier. He sprang into action. He approached Mall Santa. May I see your ID, sir? Mall Santa panicked. I'm just doing my job. ID, please. Instead of producing ID, the man started to run. DeAndre chased after him. Panic broke out in the mall. People were screaming. Children were crying. Mall Santa ran toward the parking lot, but police cars were waiting at the exit. Lynn Nguyen had already called the police. What was found on the arrested man was horrific. Drug syringes, chloroform, handcuffs, and a list. The list contained the names and addresses of 15 children. The man's real name was Harold Steinberg. He was 58 years old and had a prior conviction for child abuse. He had just been released from prison. During questioning, he said he was working on Handler's orders, but did not reveal who Handler was. They'll kill me, he said, trembling. You don't understand. They're everywhere. FBI agent Maria Rodriguez began to see patterns with the arrest of the two collectors. Both had targeted the holiday season, used professions related to children, carried the same type of equipment, and were connected to someone called Handler. This is very well organized, Maria told her team. A professional operation. And unfortunately, not just in Detroit. Check if there are similar incidents in other major cities. Tyrone investigated, and the results were alarming. There were similar incidents in Chicago, Milwaukee, and Cleveland. In all cases, collectors dressed as Santa Claus or holiday mascots had been apprehended. This is a national network, Tyrone said, maybe even international. On the evening of December 28th, the Gutierrez family received an unexpected visitor. Knocking on the door was Rosa Valdez, a 35-year-old Mexican journalist. Mrs. Gutierrez, would you talk to me? I'm an investigative journalist. I've been researching this network for months. Esperanza hesitated, but the determination in Rosa's eyes convinced her. Come in. Rosa had files in her hand. Look, this network isn't just in America. It has branches in Mexico, Canada, even Europe. They kidnap children and sell them to wealthy families as adopted children. Or worse. Worse what? Miguel's voice trembled. Rosa took a deep breath. The organ mafia. The room fell silent. Esperanza's hands began to tremble. So are Mateo. Yes, but you saved him. Now help me. We have to take down this network. Is Rosa Valdez really a journalist? Or does she have another identity? Who could this mysterious person called Handler be? Do you think you could act like Lynn Nguyen? Or would you say, you're exaggerating, and send your child to where Santa Claus said? And most importantly, the other 4 collectors are still out there. Where are they now, and who are they targeting? December 29th, midnight. Rosa Valdez was still showing the files at the Gutierrez family home. But something caught Esperanza's attention. Rosa had a small tattoo on her wrist, a cobra snake with UV7 written underneath. "What's that tattoo?" Esperanza asked suddenly. Rosa immediately pulled her arm away. "Oh, a youthful mistake." Nothing important, but Miguel's face changed. While working at the Ford factory, he had heard some workers from Mexico mention this symbol. Los Cobras Invisibles, the invisible cobras. Mexico's secret police force. "You're not a journalist," Miguel said quietly. "You're from Mexican intelligence." Rosa froze for a moment. Then she smiled. "Well done, Mr. Gutierrez. Yes, I'm from the Unidad de Victimas, the victims unit. We fight child trafficking." "Why did you lie?" Esperanza was furious. "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell the whole truth. Look, this network is so big that the FBI, the CIA, and we are all after it. And I know who Handler is." Everyone fell silent. "Who?" Miguel asked. Rosa took a deep breath. "You won't believe this, but Handler works for the Detroit Police Department." Esperanza's mouth fell open. "What, a cop?" "Worse. He's in the juvenile division. Perfect cover, isn't it? He looks like he's protecting children, but he's running the network from the inside. Who is this person?" Miguel's voice trembled. "Lieutenant Patricia Donnelly, 45 years old, Irish descent. She's been in the police force for 20 years. She's been running this network for the last 5 years. Esperanza grabbed the phone. "We have to call the FBI." "Stop." Rosa raised her hand. "We don't have any proof yet. Only suspicion. But there will be a big operation tomorrow. The last 4 collectors will also be in action. They have planned a big harvest for New Year's Eve." "Harvest?" Miguel's stomach churned. "Yes, they plan to kidnap 20 children in one night, all from different neighborhoods, different ethnic groups, while families are drunk and distracted during New Year's celebrations. We have to stop this." Esperanza stood up. "We will, but we have to be careful. Patricia Donnelly is very smart. At the slightest suspicion, she'll cancel the whole operation. It'll disappear." Meanwhile, at the Detroit Police Department, Lieutenant Patricia Donnelly was on the night shift. The elegant, professional-looking woman was typing something on her computer. No one knew she was actually the handler. Her phone rang. It was Collector 5. "Handler, 3 and 7 have been captured." "What do we do?" Patricia's voice was ice cold. "Continue with the plan. Tomorrow night at 11. Everyone be in position. And no more phone calls after this. Only encrypted messages." After Patricia hung up, she pulled a file from her drawer. It contained a list of all the wealthy families in Detroit. Next to each one were notes. Number of children, age, blood type, value. Yes, Rosa was right. This wasn't just kidnapping. It was organ trafficking too. December 30th, 10 a.m. There was an emergency meeting at the FBI office. Rosa Valdez, her real name was Rosa Villanueva, was there as the official representative of Mexican intelligence. "What evidence do you have on Lieutenant Donnelly?" asked FBI Director Robert Mitchell, a 58-year-old veteran agent. Rosa opened her laptop. "A human trafficker we caught in Mexico said the handler was a cop in Detroit. We looked into Donnelly's bank accounts. He has $3 million in the Cayman Islands. That's still not definitive proof," Mitchell said cautiously. "But this is..." Rosa showed another document. "Donnelly's daughter died of leukemia at age 10, 8 years ago. Since then, he's been obsessively talking about saving children. But he's actually seeking revenge." "Why did my child die while others live?" Maria Rodriguez interjected. "He's crazy then, yes, and very dangerous. He has a plan for tomorrow night. We found the details at Collector 11's house." Rosa showed a map. "At 4 different locations, 4 collectors will move at the same time." Mitchell stood up. "Then we'll intervene at the same time. Get all the teams ready." That evening, there was tense anticipation at the Gutierrez family home. Esperanza asked Rosa, "Is our house a target too?" "No, they took you off the list. You attracted too much attention." "But your neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Kowalski's house, is on the list," Esperanza gasped. "Katarzyna? That little girl is in danger." "Don't worry. The FBI is watching the house. But we need your help too. What can we do?" "Invite the Kowalskis to your New Year's Eve party tomorrow. Have them stay at your house. That way they'll be safe." December 31st, New Year's Eve. Detroit was covered in snow. Celebration preparations were everywhere. No one knew what would happen that night. Patricia Donnelly was getting ready at home. She took off her police uniform and put on black clothes. She put her gun, fake IDs, and passports in her bag. This was the last operation. After that, she would go to Argentina. She would start a new life there. Her phone vibrated. Encrypted message. All units ready. Patricia smiled. Everything was going according to plan. Or so she thought. At 8 p.m., the Gutierrez family home was full. The Kowalski family, the Haddad family, even elderly Deshaun Williams and Vietnamese Lynn Nguyen and her grandson Tommy were there. Esperanza had invited everyone. Security was tight. Why such a big party? Asked Stanislaw Kowalski. Miguel replied with a smile. Neighborhood is important. We should be together. But in reality, FBI agents were surrounding the house. Maria Rodriguez was in the garden in civilian clothes. Tyrone Jackson was waiting in a minivan parked on the corner of the street with technical equipment. 10:45 p.m. Patricia Donnelly gave the final instruction over the radio. We start in 15 minutes. Collector 4, 9, 10, and 11 were in position. Each targeted different houses in different neighborhoods. 6 p.m. The operation began, but the FBI was ready too. Teams were waiting at every location. Rosa Villanueva was following Patricia Donnelly. The first intervention was at Rouge Park. Collector 4 was caught by FBI agents while trying to break into the Okonkwo family's house through a window. The man's real name was Jerome Baptiste, a criminal of Haitian descent. Collector 9 was luckier in Greektown. He managed to enter the house, but the scream of 7-year-old Dimitri Papadopoulos woke up the entire neighborhood. His father Nikos, a former Greek soldier, knocked the man to the ground. When the police arrived, Collector 9, whose real name was Vladimir Petrov, a member of the Russian mafia, was lying unconscious. Things were more dramatic in Midtown. Collector 10 managed to kidnap Lily, the 5-year-old daughter of the Chen family. But the FBI was still on his trail. A high-speed chase ensued. Collector 10's vehicle collided with police on Woodward Avenue. He was finally cornered. The man surrendered. His real name was Jiang Wei, a human trafficker who had come illegally from China. Lily was rescued, shocked but unharmed. In Southwest, there was a completely different surprise. When Collector 11 entered the Santiago family's home, he found Rosa Villanueva waiting for him. "Hello, Carlos," said Rosa, pointing her gun. Collector 11 was shocked. "Rosa, You're one of us." "No, Carlos. I was never one of you. I just infiltrated you." Carlos Mendoza, Collector 11, was Rosa's ex-boyfriend. Rosa had used him to infiltrate the network. "You tricked me," Carlos shouted. "You tricked the kids. I just served justice." Carlos reached for his gun, but Rosa was faster. She shot him in the shoulder. Carlos collapsed to the ground. Meanwhile, Patricia Donnelly heard what was happening on the radio. The entire team had been captured. She had to escape. As she sped toward the airport, she heard sirens behind her. The FBI and Detroit police were after her. But when Patricia looked back, she saw her former partner, Detective Jamal Washington, in one of the pursuing vehicles. "Jamal?" Patricia was shocked. "You knew too?" Jamal spoke over the radio. "Patricia, surrender." "You're surrounded." "Never." Patricia stepped on the gas. The chase continued on the I-94 freeway. Patricia headed for the exit, but the road was blocked. Police cars were everywhere. She was cornered. When she got out of the car, she was surrounded by over 50 police officers and FBI agents. Maria Rodriguez stepped forward. "Lieutenant Donnelly, you're under arrest. Organized child abduction, human trafficking, abuse of authority." Patricia laughed. A maniacal laugh. "You don't understand. I was saving them. From this dirty world, from these cruel parents." "We're sorry you lost your daughter," said Maria, "but that doesn't give you the right to—" "Shut up!" Patricia yelled. "No one understands my pain. My Emily was 10 when she died. 10, and no one cared. The system failed." "I'll destroy the system." Patricia suddenly reached for her waist. A second gun, but she pointed it at herself. "No!" Jamal yelled, but it was too late. Patricia pulled the trigger. Everyone froze. Patricia collapsed to the ground. Jamal ran over and cradled his former partner in his arms. "Why, Patricia? Why?" As Patricia's eyes closed, she whispered, "Emily. Finally. I'm coming." And she died. Midnight. The new year had begun. As fireworks exploded in Detroit's sky, the city awoke from its nightmare. Was Patricia Donnelly truly alone? Or was she part of a larger organization? Was Rosa's relationship with Carlos ethical? Is any means justified to achieve justice? And why do you think people who have experienced trauma sometimes want to inflict the same pain on others? January 1st, 2024, 9:00 a.m. When Detroit woke up, the snow was still falling. But this time, the whiteness of the snow symbolized purity, a new beginning. Only the newspaper headlines remained from last night's nightmare. Detroit's Black Christmas. Police lieutenant allegedly ran child trafficking ring. The Gutierrez home was silent. No one had slept. Esperanza sat in the kitchen, staring out the window with a coffee cup in her hand. Miguel came over. Mi amor, it's over. We're safe now. Esperanza nodded, but her eyes were filled with tears. But what if there are other Patricias? What if there are other handlers in other cities? Then they'll be caught too. Rosa and the FBI won't stop. Just then, there was a knock at the door. It was Rosa Villanueva. She looked tired, but there was a slight smile on her face. Good morning. I hope I'm not disturbing you. No, come in, said Esperanza. Coffee. Rosa spoke as she sat down in the kitchen. I came to thank you. Without your courage, we couldn't have taken down this network. We thank you, said Miguel. You saved our Mateo. Rosa nodded. Then she grew serious. I need to tell you something. This network wasn't just in Detroit. It had branches in Chicago, Los Angeles, New York. But with Patricia's death and the documents we seized, we'll find them all. How many children? Esperanza couldn't finish the question. In the last 5 years, approximately 300 children, Rosa said quietly. Some were found, some. Unfortunately, we were too late. The room fell silent. 300 children, 300 families, 300 nightmares. Henry Ford Hospital, Child Psychiatry Department. Dr. Rachel Goldstein had arranged a special meeting. All the children affected by the incident and their families were there. The Gutierrez family, the Kowalski family, the Haddad family, the Chen family, the Santiago family. First of all, I want to welcome you all, said Dr. Goldstein. I know you've been through a difficult time. Your children have experienced trauma, but together, we will get through this. 8-year-old Mateo was sitting on his mother's lap. The other children were sitting with their families. 7-year-old Katarzyna Kowalski was holding her father's hand constantly. 5-year-old Lily Chen wasn't saying a word. Children, Dr. Goldstein said softly, something bad happened to you. Bad people scared you. But you're safe now, and it's normal to be scared. It's normal to cry. It's normal to have nightmares. The 9-year-old twins Omar and Ali Haddad looked at each other. Omar asked, but why? Why did they want to hurt us? Dr. Goldstein took a deep breath. Because some people are sick, Omar. Sick in their hearts and minds. But they've been caught. They can't hurt anyone anymore. The therapy session lasted 2 hours. The children drew pictures, talked about their feelings. The families listened to each other, supported each other. At the end of the session, elderly Keturah Williams stood up. I'm a former police officer. I did this job for 30 years, and I can tell you this. Evil will always exist. But so is good, and when good unites, it always wins. January 10th, 2024, Federal Court, Detroit. The trial of all the arrested collectors had begun. The courtroom was packed. Victim families, journalists, the public. Federal prosecutor Jennifer Thompson, 48, was an experienced lawyer. As she read the indictment, the courtroom was silent. The defendants Beauregard Thibodeau, Harold Steinberg, Jerome Baptiste, Vladimir Petrov, Zhang Wei, and Carlos Mendoza are charged with forming an organized crime syndicate, kidnapping children, human trafficking, extortion, and threats. Each defendant's lawyer presented a defense. Some showed remorse. Some said Patricia Donnelly had coerced them. But the evidence was clear. When Beauregard Thibodeau asked to speak, the courtroom fell silent. I'm a sick man. I know that. Patricia found me. She took advantage of my weakness. But that doesn't justify what I did. I apologize to all the families. Harold Steinberg, however, showed no remorse. The system is broken. The rich give their children everything. The poor starve to death. We were just restoring balance. Judge Michael O'Brien, 65, was a lawyer with 40 years of experience. He had the final word. This case is not just a criminal case. It is our stand against attacks on the most vulnerable members of our society. Our children, the defendants, violated the most sacred trust, the trust in a child's innocence. The sentences were announced. Beauregard Thibodeau, 25 years in prison. Harold Steinberg, 20 years in prison. Jerome Baptiste, 18 years in prison. Vladimir Petrov, 22 years in prison. Zhang Wei, 15 years in prison. Carlos Mendoza, 30 years in prison. The courtroom erupted in applause. Justice had been served, but for the families, the real struggle was just beginning. Healing. February 15th, 2024, Valentine's Day. Life in Detroit was starting to return to normal, but there was a special event in the Mexican town neighborhood. Esperanza Gutierrez and her neighbors had launched the Safe Neighborhood Initiative. Over 200 people gathered in the hall of St. Anne's Church. Esperanza took the microphone. Dear neighbors, friends, what we went through 2 months ago shook us all. But it also taught us an important lesson. We need each other. Today, we are here to establish a system to protect our children. There will be volunteer watchers on every street. WhatsApp groups, emergency plans, child safety training. Keturah Williams stood up. I will provide safety training to all the watchers. I will share my 30 years of police experience. Lynn Nguyen added, I will also teach the meditation techniques I learned in Vietnam. The children will need these to overcome their traumas. The program attracted a lot of interest. Similar initiatives started not only in Mexican Town, but throughout Detroit. April 1st, 2024. Rosa Villanueva came to say goodbye to the Gutierrez family before returning to Mexico. She had a package in her hand. For Mateo, she said, handing over the package. When Mateo opened the package, a book came out, El Principito, The Little Prince, the Spanish version. I heard you wanted to learn Spanish, said Rosa with a smile. Mateo hugged Rosa. Thank you. You're a hero, Rosa laughed. No, Mateo. The real heroes are your mom and dad, and you'll be a hero too when you grow up. Esperanza asked Rosa, what happens now? Are there other cases? There always are, said Rosa seriously. But we're better prepared now. The US, Mexico, and Canada have established a joint security network. We won't allow such a large network to form again. As Rosa left, she said one last thing. Remember, evil thrives in the dark. But as long as there is light, darkness cannot prevail. December 24th, 2024, 1 year later. It was Christmas Eve again. Detroit was covered in snow once more. But this time there was a real celebration at the Gutierrez family home. Mateo no longer had nightmares. The therapy had worked. He was now 9 years old and learning Spanish. He had even become pen pals with Rosa. When the doorbell rang, everyone jumped, an old reflex. But it wasn't Santa Claus at the door. It was their neighbors, the Kowalski family, the Haddad family, the Chen family, the Williams, the Nguyen family. They had all come bearing food and gifts. Let's celebrate together, said Stanislaw Kowalski. We're not just neighbors anymore. We're family. That night, 30 people gathered at the Gutierrez family's house. Christmas carols were sung in different languages: Polish, Arabic, Vietnamese, Spanish, Chinese. Isabella Martinez, a reporter from the Detroit Free Press, was also there. She was preparing a special report, Hope After the Nightmare. Mrs. Gutierrez, a year ago tonight you experienced a terrible event. How do you feel now? Esperanza thought, then smiled. I feel strong, because we are not alone. Look at this house, these people. We come from different countries, different religions, but we want the same thing, for our children to be safe. What about Mateo? How is he? Esperanza looked at her son. Mateo was playing with Tommy Nguyen. He was laughing. Children are strong, said Esperanza, stronger than us adults. They know how to forgive, forget, and trust again. Isabella asked her final question. Any advice for other families? Esperanza turned to the camera. Listen to your children. Talk to them. And most importantly, trust your instincts. A mother, a father, senses when something is wrong. Listen to that feeling, and you are not alone. Ask for help. Ask your neighbors, the police, anyone. Don't be ashamed. Don't hesitate. The safety of our children is everyone's responsibility. FBI Detroit Office Special Report. Maria Rodriguez was writing her final report, closing the case. The Donnelly case was the most complex child abduction operation in modern history. Over 5 years, across 7 states, 312 children were targeted, 78 went missing, 45 were rescued, and sadly 33 lost their lives. Patricia Donnelly's personal tragedy shows how a victim can become a perpetrator. Her daughter's death drove her mad. Her desire for revenge turned her into a monster. But this case taught us something else. When we stand together as a community, we can overcome even the darkest evil. The Gutierrez family, Keturah Williams, Lynn Nguyen, and others showed the power of courage and solidarity. Final words: evil will always exist. But as long as goodness remains vigilant, darkness cannot prevail. Years later, 2034. Mateo Gutierrez, 19 years old, was studying criminology at the University of Michigan. He was presenting his graduation thesis, The Donnelly Case, The Triangle of Trauma, Revenge, and Justice. Rosa Villanueva was also in the class. She was now a children's rights expert at the UN. She had come as a guest speaker. As Mateo finished his speech, he said, "When I was 10 years old, I was almost kidnapped. What saved me that night was my mother's instinct, our neighbors' vigilance, and our community's solidarity. If I'm standing here today, it's because of the brave people who stood up against evil." The professor asked, "Mr. Gutierrez, how did this experience affect you?" Mateo smiled. "It gave me a purpose. I want to work in the FBI's child crimes unit. Like Patricia Donnelly, I want to stop people whose trauma drives them to evil. But I also want to save them before they get to that point." Rosa stood up and applauded. The whole class joined in. When class ended, Rosa approached Mateo. "Your mother would be proud of you." "She is," said Mateo. "She's waiting outside. She came to watch my graduation." Indeed, Esperanza was there. She was now 52 years old and head nurse at Henry Ford Hospital. And still, every Christmas, she volunteered as a security guard in her neighborhood. Mother and son embraced. "I'm proud of you, mi amor." "Me too, Mom, you saved me." "No," said Esperanza. "We saved each other." And so we come to the end of our story. But this is not the end, it is actually a beginning. Because every day, somewhere in the world, a child is in danger. And every day, brave people fight to save them. So what do you think? Can you forgive Patricia Donnelly? Does the pain of a mother who lost her daughter excuse her actions? Was what Rosa did, using her ex-boyfriend to infiltrate the network, ethical? Is any means justified in the name of justice? And most importantly, if you were in Mateo's place, would you choose the same profession after this trauma? Would you have to look into his darkness to fight evil? Do you have children? How do you protect them? What safety measures do you take? If this story taught you something, please share it. Perhaps your comment will save another family. Perhaps your warning will prevent another Patricia Donnelly from being born. Remember, evil thrives in the dark, but together we are the light. And light always overcomes darkness. Stay safe, be vigilant, and look out for one another, because sometimes a single neighbor's attention, a single mother's instinct, can save a life. Perhaps one day, your own.